just sending you guys all love. And today I thought appropriately, since it's not only Father's Day, but it's also the summer solstice. So happy summer, first day of summer, longest day, most light we ever have all year long is today. And it's also a new moon, a new start. So it's a very interesting synchronicity that we're going to explore in today's message. And I thought we could talk about how we can explore this father archetype. We won't pull cards at the end because we'll focus exclusively on the father archetype today, but then also how to really protect and guard that light that each of us has to share in honor of that summer solstice and everything that's happening in the world right now, moving from shadow attribute of the father archetype into that light attribute and the sacred divine feminine, or that sacred mother. So thanks so much for joining me. Let's go ahead and get started. So first of all, I just want to dedicate this to my own father and also my brother, who is a little father of this cutie pie that we got to see. We're at my parents' home right now in Littleton, Colorado, so we've had the joy of actually being able to spend time with them right now. We came over last night and are just with them. So it's been a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to be here. And when I was sitting with my dad this morning, I asked him, we were reminiscing, my father's 83 years old and he's from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And I was asking him this morning, we were reminiscing about his father and even his grandparents. And I said, you know, what was the best advice your dad ever gave you? Because my dad's dad died when he was, I think, 33 years old at the age of 61. So he lost his dad pretty early to lung cancer from smoking. And thankfully his mother ended up living a much longer life. But he said, you know, the best advice he ever gave me was not in words, but was in action. He really spoke his truth. He spoke the wisdom that he had through what he did, how he provided, through a very strong silence and a presence, a very strong presence, rather than just giving advice. And I know this is a very complicated subject we're talking about today. I usually don't broach easy subjects in these sacred Sundays, but today I know can be very tough for many of us. And my heart goes out to all of you who have struggled with this. I know the father relationship is one that we all have, whether or not that father is in our lives anymore, or was passed on, or maybe the relationship's been severed, or maybe we don't know our father. It's a complicated one, and oh, there's a little squirrel behind me to lighten the energy here. I don't know if you can see that squirrel, but this relationship with our father is a sacred one as well. So let's talk about the father archetype. So the father archetype, the light attribute of the father archetype, I'm going to get towards the end of the talk today, but I want to explore the shadow attribute first, because it's very appropriate for what we're even experiencing on a global scale, but very much here in our country right now in relationship to the abuse of authority, the dictatorial control. I can't think of the word right now, but just very much an abuse of authority, an abuse of positions of power, and exploring this not with the rage of the victim and just wanting to abolish that father archetype all completely, or abolish that archetype altogether, but how do we reform this archetype, come back into balance? Because this is happening on a global scale, as we know, but very much so in our own country, where we're seeing systems that are very much patriarchal beginning to come into serious question, crumbling, loosening up, and beginning to realize that what we're witnessing has not been effective, or it's been effective maybe at one point, but now it's not as effective anymore, even to the point where it's become abusive, an abuse of power. And what's beautiful about this time, especially even just this moment in our calendar year, is we're welcoming in the energy of that sacred feminine, of that light attribute, of the energy of warmth, a nurturing energy of summer. But also collectively, as we know, we're moving into this age of Aquarius, which is also an energy of clear seeing in 2020, of being able to recognize love, recognize compassion, recognizing spirituality, and connection to our soul's interconnectedness with everyone on this planet as priority. So it's a very beautiful time of transition right now that can be very confusing. So let's go back to that shadow attribute. There are so many examples of this in religious texts. Of course, we've got them in our own lives, but I know, like, in the Old Testament, we've got so many examples of this. Even Joseph, who was the foster father of Jesus, foster fathers are celebrated as well today. There is a complication in that relationship, not knowing how Mary got pregnant in that story of the Old Testament, or actually the New Testament. But in the Old Testament, we can look at examples like Adam, even, who fathered Cain and Abel, and Cain killing Abel. I mean, the amount of stress that fathers go through potentially, and that father archetype is pretty vast. Look at Abraham with that temptation to sacrifice Isaac, and the faith being challenged, the faith in God. That's a very controversial story. And how did Isaac feel about it? Actually, Isaac came into a great healing and accepting that his father was doing what he thought was best. And I feel like this holiday in particular, celebrating fathers, can be very challenging for those of us who have not reached full forgiveness with our fathers. So how do we do that? Our fathers are all human. None of them are 100% perfect, and none of them are 100% flawed, just like all human beings. So part of the deep healing that comes from, and maybe you're not ready to go there yet. If not, be where you need to be. It's okay. You need to be where you need to be, okay? But when we go into that state of healing and more deeper healing, a deeper sense of forgiveness and letting go, we must look at the goodness, the good things that we learned from this person in our lives. You might have a list a mile long that you can celebrate about your father, or you might be really challenged today and thinking about, how can I celebrate my father because this and this and this and this and this. But in your relationship, in your soul's relationship to his soul, what have you been able to learn? How have you been able to grow? It might have been really tough lessons, and it might have been really glorious ones, but how are you able to grow? That's one of the first steps in healing this relationship. So let's go into actually a fun example from Hinduism, which sometimes we really challenge our fathers as children. And there's a great example of Shiva. He had two sons. Ganesh is the more famous son, and he said to his sons wanted to get married and wanted to get married, and they were kind of in a competition of who's going to get married first. And Shiva said, okay, whoever can go to the ends of the earth first and can be the one to get married. There's my squirrel again. See him? And so one of the sons goes off immediately. He's very able-bodied, and he goes off immediately and starts on his trek. And Ganesh, a little more clever and witty, decides that he's going to circle his mother 7 times and then say to his father, I've just circled the world 7 times. I'm the winner. And his father actually had to say, okay, your logic is pretty sound, so I'm going to have you win. The relationship between parent and child is not a linear one. It evolves, it grows. The parent learns from the child learns from the parent. And that's a really fun example from Hinduism of Shiva learning from Ganesh. But what I want to also drive home with this talk is that it's all relative, isn't it? I mean, some of the people who go through the most challenging structures or relationships with their fathers come out with the gentlest souls and with the most evolved paths, having received and actively accepted that challenge that they had with their father, and then overcome it so that they can grow more deeply in their relationship with themselves, with their own children, or with God, and also being able just to be grateful that they are here. So it's very relative. It could always be worse, and it could always be better. So if we're stuck in the victim archetype, we're gonna miss the gift that is our Father in whatever form that he is in now, or has been in our lives, or hasn't been, okay? So moving forward a little bit, talking about the father archetype, we also have an incredible example of that father, that patriarchal energy. And I'll get into the light attribute now because it's an example of incredible leadership. So the light attribute of this father archetype is how we can really support life around us, how we can protect life around us, being that beacon of light. And that's what we're talking about today with the summer solstice. And if you can, join me for the summer solstice observation today, later this afternoon. But this, if you have a very difficult time with this archetype and this relationship to the father, you can always go deeper with me. I put it in the notes, a couple oils to use to help, essential oils, and for forgiveness, for protection, and then also just for steadiness in your own life. If you're having to be your own father, that's really a good oil to use too. But also if you want to go deeper with one-on-one coaching, I work with you. Click on the link there and you'll figure out how to do that, okay? So getting into leadership and the light attribute, this beautiful wisdom, this is not just in male humans, this is also in females. You think about Susan B. Anthony beautifully being this advocate for women and an abolitionist, this beautiful leadership that took the father archetype, embodied it in her, and then was able to be a leader. But you also think about beautiful examples like Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Mother Teresa, people who have fathered a movement, fathered a whole race or a whole group of people or tribe of people. So here's where I want to turn it to you. In the summer solstice, in uncovering your own light, how can you be your own father? How can you let go of any resentment you have so that you can begin to reparent, to fill in the gaps where your human, very human father made mistakes, I'm sure. How can you then take accountability and begin to give yourself the nurturing wisdom and the protection so that your light can shine even more beautifully and uninhibited? Okay, so where do you in your life need more guidance? Where do you need more protection? Where do you need more wise words? And how can you source yourself with that, or look to others, look to other incredible leaders in your life? Maybe you've got some wonderful mentors you can turn to for this energy. How can you source yourself and be accountable for how you are moving through the world in relationship to this father archetype? Okay, if you're really having a difficult time with this, what I advise is see how you can help somebody else. See how you can father someone else or be that protector, how you can serve someone else. Because when we're feeling really weak inside, when we're feeling like we can't help ourselves, we don't know where to start, a very good thing to do is how can we help someone else? So I've seen my brother grow so tremendously in the 8 years, almost 8 years since he's been a father. It's been so beautiful, and he's gained so much healing in being that beautiful father to his little girl, Marley. And so sometimes the first step that we need in our own healing is maybe you are a new father, or maybe you're not a new father, but you can also give even more so to your children, or perhaps take under your wing somebody who is really in need of your guidance, of your wisdom, of that father archetype. So guys, I know this is a tough one today. We have so much synchronicity with this new moon in Cancer. That's a lot about family, about emotional healing. I know we've got our New Moon Women's Circle tonight, so ladies, if you want to join me for that online, go ahead and do that. It's at raisethevibration.com on the events page. But it's so critical that we take responsibility for our own healing, that we are able to not let resentment dim our own lights, because we are all here to give the world a unique gift. And if we're trapped in a lack of forgiveness, or we're trapped in that energy of resentment, we don't fully get to shine. We don't get the freedom that we so need to truly give our gift to the world. So it's a beautiful day to reflect. I hope you can be with your father if that's where you are right now, and feel free to share this message. Until I see you next time, be sure to keep raising the vibration, everybody. Happy Father's Day. Love you. Bye-bye.